The Dodgers are struggling against soft tossing pitchers, but you don't get to choose how hard the pitcher throws, so they got to figure this out.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and thanks to those of you who are with us live here on this Tuesday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. So please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snyder. That guy next to me is my co-host, Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like most of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we bring you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. A lot going on in Dodgerland. Dodgers dropped a game to the Mets against a pitcher who they probably should have hit. We'll talk about that in a second. Later, we'll talk about Tanner Scott. Unfortunately, continuing his streak of, hey, every other game I'm going to be terrible, and what that means for him, what that means for the Dodgers, and what the solutions are. And in the last segment, we will talk a little bit about some potential trade targets for the Dodgers, including an old friend who Jeff Passan mentioned might be a target to be a new friend. But first, Dodgers lost to Paul Blackburn the day after losing to Ryan Yarbrough. I can't even remember Ryan Yarbrough. He's a former Dodger. I was surprised, Vince, when I read people talking about Yarbrough getting his World Series ring. I was genuinely surprised to discover that he pitched for the Dodgers last year.
Really?
I remember him being on the Dodgers. It felt like forever ago. Like maybe it was just because 2025 was such a long season, but yeah, I felt like he got traded in 2024 was such a long season. I feel like it was 2022 and 2023 that he was on the Dodgers, but
Yeah, I mean, especially considering that later in the season, we were like, man, I wish they had Ryan Yarbrough right now to eat up some innings. So
I don't remember ever saying that sentence. So yeah, maybe, but yeah, that was wild. But so they lost to Ryan Yarbrough on Sunday. They lost to Paul Blackburn on Monday. And after the game on last night, Dave Roberts said he thinks some of it is that the Dodgers hitters are geared up for velocity. And before people get too upset, Dave Roberts specifically said it's not an excuse. And they need to figure it out. But the reporters asked Roberts for the explanation, and that was the explanation he thinks it is. That, and he said he thinks that's why the Dodgers were able to battle back in the late innings, because the Mets brought in their harder throwers. The Dodgers scored against who was it in the eighth inning that Ohtani No, was it Max Kranick maybe? Anyway, somebody throws harder than Paul Blackburn.
The 6th inning was Brazoban, and then the 9th inning was Diaz.
And 9th inning, they scored against Diaz. But the runs came against harder throwers, and even the rally in the 9th or in the 10th that almost worked. Everybody who the Dodgers did well against throws harder, and it's not like Blackburn really shut them down, Vince. Like, they had plenty of opportunities. The bigger issues was they couldn't get the big hit. They were 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position, and one of those was an infield single that didn't score a run. So they didn't have a run-scoring hit with runners in scoring position until the 10th inning. But do you think there's anything to that idea that they are better against harder throwers?
I mean, when you strike out Ohtani with runners on base, that's a little bit of a shutdown for him. But to me, it's one of those where when you face slower velocity or a guy like Yarbrough, a guy like Blackburn, where they're mixing in pitches, whatever it is, first time through the lineup, okay, I understand. You're getting used to it again. Second and third time through the lineup, it's really hard for me to be like, okay, well, I'm going to give them a pass just because, you've seen them once. Obviously it's a little bit different than what you're used to. And the other part is they're throwing strikes, but they're not necessarily pumping in strikes. So, why is the patience from when the guys are throwing harder not there when the guys are throwing softer? Maybe the ball looks bigger coming towards them, or they think, oh, this guy doesn't throw as hard. So, I don't know. I don't know if there's a mentality shift. It's just a matter of this is what happened back-to-back days, and it'll be a blip on the radar as we move forward. I don't know. But, yeah, obviously guys are geared up for 95 plus, and when you get less than that, you're not used to it. But I think after the first time through the lineup, I don't give you a pass the second time.
Yeah, and for me, yeah, and maybe it's just a different mindset of, whether we're giving him a pass. It's, obviously you're a major league hitter and the guys you're facing are major league pitchers. Your job is to hit these guys. And I'd like to think the Dodgers are just kind of messing with teams. Hey, yeah, go ahead, throw your bad pitchers against us. We'll suck against them, I promise. Try that in October. I promise we'll keep not hitting them. But I wonder. I do think that 2 games is too small a sample size to say, like, I mean, Dave Roberts has asked for an explanation, and so he gave the best explanation he had, and there may be some truth to it, but also, like, Ryan Yarbrough is actually good this year. He's changed his arm slot. He's changed how he does things. Teoscar Hernandez has destroyed Yarbrough in his career, and Teo looked terrible on Sunday. And so Ryan Yarbrough might actually just be a good pitcher now, regardless. Not a soft tosser who fools me. He might just be a good pitcher, maybe.
He had stretches like that with the Dodgers. Then those stretches ended. So
that's true. And Blackburn, this is his first start of the year, but he's been a successful pitcher. And this is his 9th MLB season. He's been around for a while, obviously knows his stuff. And we've seen Clayton Kershaw over the last several years doesn't throw hard, but you don't have to throw hard to be an effective pitcher. But I guess the reason that makes me think that's not the full explanation is because they did have a lot of traffic. They just couldn't capitalize. That one of the most frustrating at bats last night, and you and I were both at the game, Vince. I don't know where you were sitting for this particular moment, if you could tell, but after Conforto and Muncy both walked to load the bases, and then Tommy Edman came up and struck out chasing pitches out of the zone. Blackburn only threw 1 pitch in the zone in that at bat, and he struck Edman out, and it was like, oh, come on, Tommy. And obviously Tommy Edman overall has been great for the Dodgers. That at bat was very frustrating for me because I don't know if he's just trying too hard or maybe he just didn't have a good read on Blackburn. Maybe he just got fooled. But when he's walked, I think between Conforto and Muncy, he threw like 1 or 2 strikes in those 2 walks. And then Edman came up there over anxious. Dave Roberts didn't call him out, but Roberts did say in his postgame interview, he's like, yeah, we had some bad at bats tonight. And that was
off Brazaban, though. That was in the 6th when Edman struck out.
Okay. And I guess
Tanya struck out against Blackburn, I think, in the 4th or 5th with 2 runners on.
Okay, yeah. And I guess maybe I had kind of moved on from specifically Blackburn and more just the Dodgers approach, that they did have base runners. And, if Edman takes a walk right there, it's a different game. If Edman gets a base hit there, it's a different game, and so many little things that, we're going to talk about Tanner Scott in the next segment. If Ohtani hits the ball 3 feet farther in the 9th inning, Tanner Scott doesn't pitch in this game, so little things. I'm always hesitant to draw big conclusions from small sample sizes. And so I'm not ready to say Dodgers can't hit soft tossers. I would guess there's probably even examples this year of them doing well against soft tossers, but last night was definitely frustrating.
And even then, there was a couple balls hit that on a warmer night might have gone out. Like Muncy hit one. I think Paez hit one. Like if that game had been played on Friday, those balls might have been out because Friday was very hot in LA, and then Monday got back to June gloom, hit pretty hard. So it's not like it was a complete like, okay, these guys were bad. It just was, like you said, the lack of discipline throughout the game in multiple spots was kind of tough to see. And then you realize, not everything is a lifetime movie because Tommy Edman had multiple chances on his bobblehead night to do something and ultimately didn't do it.
Yeah. He made the last out of the game with the tying run on third base. Tommy Edman could have definitely written a story last night for his bobblehead. Didn't, but this game isn't on Edman. It's on the offense overall. And if the offense scores more runs, that's the story of this game. That Dustin May pitched a great game and the Dodgers win, but the offense didn't score a lot of runs, so that's part of the story. And because of that, the other part of the story is, unfortunately, Tanner Scott, who came in again and continued his streak of, hey, every other game, I'm going to be terrible. It's frustrating for us. It's frustrating for him. I get the impression it's frustrating for his manager. So what are they going to do about it? What can they do about it? We'll talk about that next. So please keep it locked on Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Hey, we are back. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks for being an everydayer. If you are, if you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. Obviously, usually we are live on Sunday through Thursday nights. Last night, Vince and I were both at the game, and traffic and freeway closures. I didn't even get back to my parents' house until after midnight last night, and so it didn't make sense to go live last night. We decided let's do a morning episode today. So that's why we are at a little bit different time today. Sorry for those of you who count on us for your commute. We definitely don't make this a regular thing, but I don't get to many Dodger games, and it does kind of mess with our schedule a little bit. So thank you for being here with us live today.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about a loss on your birthday, so
that's true. Yeah, now that we're a day past my birthday, I am just your average 48-year-old man talking Dodgers. Now we can talk about a loss, and unfortunately, we can talk about Tanner Scott once again being bad. And so he came in the 10th inning. Obviously, you've got the zombie runner on second base, which is one of the worst rules in baseball history. If you actually care about the game, the specific game, it's fun. If you don't care who wins, oh yeah, that adds a little bit of randomness. But when you care who wins, the randomness isn't great. Of course, I don't know that things turned out any different without the zombie runner last night, because Tanner Scott was just throwing meatball after meatball. He was clearly not pleased with himself after the game, talking to the media. Somebody asked him, "What have you noticed about your fastball?" And he said, "It's been getting hit a lot." Very blunt and accurate. Unfortunately, I wonder, Vince. One of the things when the Dodgers signed Tanner Scott's only real weakness the last 2 years has been wildness. He walked too many guys, and he had the stuff. He also got a ton of strikeouts, and so it made up for it. He's not walking many guys this year, and it seems like where he used to miss out of the zone, now he's missing in the zone. And I think what we're learning is I'd rather have a guy miss out of the zone than miss in the zone.
Yeah, trying to find out what's wrong with Scott is obviously tough, because you look at the underlying numbers in terms of velocity and movement and that type of stuff, still pretty good. The one biggest change is, the lack of walks. He's struck out 29. He's walked just 3. That is something that you'll take from any pitcher, but in this case, maybe not, because there are guys. I mean, even Blake Snell to an extent is kind of like that, where if you start pushing down the walks, does that mean he loses some of the effectiveness because, maybe he is pitching on the corners or is trying to pitch on the zone or is trying to get you to chase, whatever it is. This might be that. And that's really the only that's the fundamental change we've seen from this year to last year. Maybe Dodgers, kind of with Roki Sasaki lowering velocity in order to throw more strikes type deal. Like, maybe this is the Dodgers want to avoid walks, and maybe it doesn't always work out right away. Now, I don't think it's something, Tanner Walk says, "Oh, I'm going to go back to having more walks." It's just a matter of, I'm going to go back to trying to find different places to place my pitches that may be balls sometimes and may put a runner on, but then I'm going to strike the next guy out.
Yeah, and maybe in perhaps the best Freudian slip in the history of this podcast, you just referred to him as Tanner Walk, which, maybe that's what he needs to become. He needs to, and I'm not saying walk more guys on purpose, but just let it eat and go out there and don't try to be fine. And obviously we're watching on TV or in person. We're not, pitching coach experts. All we can do is guess at this point. But the fact that is the main difference, the stuff is pretty much the same. Velocity is very similar, especially when you compare month by month, the early season to early season. Velocity is about the same. The stuff seems good. And that remains promising for me. Our buddy Seth Klein, one of our Locked On Dodgers insiders, was kind of jabbing me last night. Like, do the stats still say Tanner Scott's good? Because he's still not passing the eye test. And, the fact is the underlying stuff still says, yeah, this guy still has potential to be very good. Obviously, nobody who watches the games would say that Tanner Scott is good right now. But I do still think that he will be good. And that's the hard part. As Dodger fans, obviously, we want them to win every game. And we definitely don't want them to lose winnable games that they should win. In the past few years, one of the issues with the extra inning, the ghost runner, all that stuff, is that you need to have a strikeout pitcher in extra innings, because you need to get at least one strikeout to get out of that inning without allowing a run. Because you can, ground ball to second, moves the runner to third, sac fly scores him, but if you can get a strikeout in one of those first two batters, then you have a chance to get out of the inning scoreless. And the Dodgers haven't always had, usually they will have used their strikeout pitchers before they get to extra innings. Last night, Tanner Scott should be that pitcher who can shut it down. And I think that stuff is still there. I would rather, if I had to choose, would you rather have the Dodgers win on June 2nd or October 24th? I will choose October 24th. Even though June 2nd is my birthday, they should do both. They should care about me enough to win on my birthday, but I would rather have them win in October. And so there's a part of me that doesn't care at all what Tanner Scott goes through in the regular season if he is dominant Tanner Scott in October. But that's not a foregone conclusion. And that's the worrying part. It's like he needs to get to that point, and it's not a binary thing like that. Oh, yeah, he will struggle now so that he will be good in October, because the deeper we get in the season, if he's still struggling in August, then it's like, okay, is this Craig Kimbrell now? Where Craig Kimbrell ended up not even making the postseason roster. I don't think that's going to be it, but that's the concern as we get later in the season. Like, Tanner Scott needs to figure this out.
Yeah, and, right now when Tanner Scott comes into the game, you don't feel a sense of calm. You don't feel anything. You might feel a little bit of those Kenley Jansen, Craig Kimbrell days when you're just like, oh, man, Obviously, last night, someone had texted me when they brought in Scott and said, is this really like what we're doing right now? And it's like, okay, well, who do you want? You want Vesia, who's given up a lot of home runs this year? Kasparius is obviously the one guy, but he pitched on Friday, only in innings. Like, he would have been available for this spot, but, maybe they just – whatever it is, Tanner Scott's your next best guy after Kasparius, and Jack Dreyer was already used. And, who do you want him to go to? Ryan Ludus, Will Klein, or whatever Klein they signed. They got there's not a lot of people to go to. With Scott, I'll say – guys don't just lose the fastball in terms of – it's not like the slider's not as effective, the curveball's not as effective. The fastball, velocity-wise and movement-wise, if it's the same, you don't just lose effectiveness randomly. You lose command, and that's kind of where he's at right now, similar to where Vesia is at. Vesia still gets strikeouts on the fastball, even though he's, 93, 94, but you see what happens when he misses a spot, and, he's given up a lot of home runs this year. So, yeah, Kopech, Kirby Yates, Henriquez should all be back in the next week or two, hopefully. And hopefully maybe that means Tanner Scott will, get a sixth inning of a 5-run ball game or something like that and kind of work his way back into it. Obviously, he wants to be better for the Dodgers and himself and the fans and everybody else. But yeah, obviously it's tough right now, and it's not necessarily – every time he comes in for the foreseeable future until he fixes it, you're going to be like, oh, man, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's just the nature of the beast. And like we've talked about repeatedly, I'm sure the Dodgers wish they had other options right now. And you mentioned Kasparius, but right now, because until the starters have proven that they can consistently go 6 innings, you need Kasparius as that long guy. That's where he's providing the most value. So, yeah, he could be their best high leverage guy, but then it's like, okay, well, now we have to go to, I don't even know who the name is. Even Luis Garcia is hurt. So, Kasparius is their long guy now. They did sign Jose Urena today. Maybe he becomes that, and maybe that does open up more opportunities for Kasparius to be a high leverage guy. But sometimes you need a long guy with a lead too. That with this Dodgers pitching off, sometimes you're up 3-2 and your starter only got through 4 innings and you need a Casparius when you don't want to go to a guy like Jose Urena in that situation. And so, getting an effective Michael Kopech back, getting Kirby Yates back, those things will help because it will give them other options where they can say, Tanner Scott, you know what, you're going to pitch the 6th inning today and not the 9th inning or the 10th inning. I mentioned the Dodgers signed Jose Urena, the latest in a flurry of moves. I made up a new word. Latest move is Jose Urena, but they also might be looking at other pitching moves later in the season as they look towards October. Jeff Passan had an interesting article that talked about one old friend, Walker Buehler. Does that one make sense? We'll talk about it next on Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. If you share accounts with a spouse or a partner, Monarch Money is awesome. It makes it managing money with your partner smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. See all your accounts in one place. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Hey, we are back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. If you're watching on YouTube, please throw some comments in the comment section. The live chat is fun if you're live with us, but comments are forever and they help draw other people to the site. Help us out that way. Also, you can go beyond the podcast, become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can text directly with us, get one-on-one conversations, updates before the podcast, and get access to our exclusive Discord server where you can talk Dodgers with other Locked On Dodgers listeners and Dodger fans. And for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB, hosted by our buddy Paul Francis Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully. I want to shout out one everydayer, Dominic, who works security at Dodger Stadium. I ran into him yesterday at the game, and he spotted me and said, "Hey, I watch you every day." And he met my son. He's like, "Your dad's always talking about you guys." And, he pretended I say nice things about my son. So I appreciate that. So good to meet Dominic, and always fun to run into you guys at the stadium. I wish I got there more often, but it is what it is. So Jeff Passan wrote an interesting article for ESPN about potential trade targets for different teams. And the one that he mentioned for the Dodgers was very interesting. It was Walker Buehler. And he did say that would require the Red Sox falling out of contention, and maybe they will. I think the American League is easier to get back into contention. The Yankees are probably going to run away with that division, but it's not crazy to think the Red Sox could battle for a wild card spot. So maybe Buehler won't even be available. But Passan's point was basically the Dodgers know Buehler, Buehler knows the Dodgers, and the Dodgers know what Buehler is in October. And so that's their goal, is to win in October. And so Buehler would make a lot of sense. And hard to argue with any of those words, right, Vince?
Yeah, we even mentioned it when Buehler signed with the Red Sox. Like, hey, if they're not bad, we might see Walker back in July. It makes sense because he's a guy at this point seems like is going to be a pitcher. And going through 2 Tommy Johns already. I know he had earlier this year, but it's one of those where he's playing with house money a little bit, and you can stretch him and push him a little bit. You don't have to worry about too much pitch count and all that type of stuff. Obviously, they don't want to ruin him, but you don't have to worry about that type of stuff when you sign a rental or when you trade for a rental, and especially a guy that and a guy that we saw last year is willing to put it all on the line when it matters. This would make a lot of sense for the regular season too, just to get guys that can give you innings. And then you have to look at, October, what it would look like. And, Walker Buehler was an effective reliever for 1 inning last year. So even if the Dodgers did get everyone back healthy and pitching right, and Walker Buehler kind of is out of the 4-man rotation, he could still fill a role.
Yeah, although Buehler probably wouldn't be thrilled about getting traded to a team to pitch in relief in October, because his whole point in signing a one-year deal was to build up his value to hit free agency again. But if Buehler could get traded to the Dodgers with a chance to actually be a starter in October versus sitting at home and watching the playoffs from his couch with the Red Sox, then he'd definitely be on board with that. And even, I mean, like you said, he did come out of the bullpen the one time, and that definitely enhanced his value, showed what he can do. But it was definitely more the really good games. You know, he had the one bad inning against the Padres that was at least as much on the defense as on him. And then after that, he was just lights out the rest of that game, and against the Mets and against the Yankees in the postseason. That could definitely enhance his value. So from his standpoint, it could be good. For me, the big question comes down to, will the Dodgers know by the end of July whether they're going to need starting pitchers? Because, like you said, if they traded for a guy like Buehler and then Snell is healthy and Yamamoto's healthy and Glasnow's healthy and, Ohtani's healthy and Emmett Sheehan's healthy, like, so many options without even getting to Clayton Kershaw, Dustin May, and Tony Gonsolin and Roki Sasaki. Like, there's potential for the Dodgers to have too many starters in October. I do think the Dodgers would love to err on the side of having too many starters in October, because what we saw last year and what we've seen so far this year is too many starters can turn into not enough starters really, really quickly.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've seen the Dodgers count on guys to come back in years past and not make the big moves at the deadline, or multiple moves at the deadline, and ended up biting them. We're not quite there yet. It's June 3rd. Tyler Glasnow, not great things from what we're hearing with him. He threw off a mound and then has general body soreness still, and now not going to throw off a mound. Blake Snell seems to be progressing well enough. Ohtani has been progressing well enough. But also, if you don't see these guys before middle of July, then you also have to factor that, because, okay, they could come back, but maybe they're not effective. Maybe they get hurt again. Maybe, whatever it is. So I think regardless, the Dodgers are going to have to make a couple moves at the deadline. But again, I would probably feel like it's rentals and guys that are inning eaters rather than, elite guys.
Yeah. And, right now we got the news on Monday. Tyler Glasnow is once again everyone's favorite military commander, general soreness. That's not ideal. Right now, I think the Dodgers are probably thinking, and Dodger fans are definitely thinking, we can't count on Glasnow. And maybe they do slow play it with the goal of, okay, let's get you 5 starts in the regular season at the end of the year and battle through your general soreness in October, because he's still really good when he's pitching. He's just not pitching. And that's definitely frustrating. But Blake Snell does seem to be on the way back. He's throwing 120 feet. There's no soreness there. So he should be back. Obviously, Ohtani is a big wild card in that. What is he going to bring as a pitcher, when, all those things. But yeah, a rental starter definitely makes sense for this team, because especially somebody like Buehler, who you can have come in firing bullets out of the bullpen if necessary. Emmett Sheehan's a big question too, because Emmett Sheehan pitched in AAA the other day, looked awesome. His stuff is great. Emmett Sheehan might end up being the guy who we talk more about after the season than anybody else. Like, remember when the Dodgers were struggling so much, looked like their rotation was in shambles? We were talking about maybe even trading for Walker Buehler or whatever, and then Emmett Sheehan showed up and totally turned things around. Like, I wouldn't put money on that, but it's not out of the question.
Yeah, I mean, even Dustin May, this is the first time he's ever pitched in June. He's already done a career high in innings in major league terms of things. He's looked better as of late. He had a little bit of a rough patch, started off decent, and has looked good the last few times out. He's a guy that could step up into that role, and a guy that, not to say the Dodgers would do things in intentional ways, but a guy that's a free agent after the season, you don't have to necessarily worry about, hey, we're going to push him and throw, 6 innings, 100 pitches every time out. And if he continues to be effective, then you can push him. Hey, he hasn't thrown this many innings in a long time, but we're just going to keep pitching him until, he can't pitch anymore, I guess.
Yep. Other pitchers that Jeff Passan mentioned, I'll throw out really quickly. If anybody excites you, Sandy Alcantara, Zach Gallen, Tyler Anderson, Walker Buehler. We talked about Tyler Mahle, Nick Martinez. Any of those guys excite you?
I mean, not exciting. Obviously, Tyler Mahle's had a good start to the year. Tyler Anderson had that one good start in the postseason for the Dodgers, but I don't think there's going to be anyone that really wows you, and the Dodgers don't necessarily need that right now. But again, in a month, we could be talking different.
Yeah. Tyler Mahle is probably the most intriguing to me of those, just because he has been very good this year, and it does seem to be based on specific changes he has made. And so I'm always more inclined to believe in improvement when it's based on actual changes that you can see. So he could be interesting. It's definitely something, we're a little less than 2 months away from the trade deadline now. And that means the Dodgers have a little less than 2 months to kind of figure out what they have for October, what they might need, and go get it. They have the farm system to get whatever they need. And maybe some of what they need is in the farm system. But that'll be the thing to watch over the next couple months. Probably something we'll talk about several times over the next couple months, because that is going to become the story of the midseason, as it usually does.
Yeah, especially considering like this next month stretch. I don't think you can put them in a position where they're chasing by much in the division, but there could be a chance they come out of June not in first place, and then they have to decide, okay, do we think that's because of the injuries? Do we think that's because of the team? And what can we do to fix that?
Yep. All right. You got anything else for today, Vince?
No.
All right. That'll do it for us for today. Dodgers have 3 more in this series against the Mets. Hopefully the bats can wake up and get a series win here. If the Dodgers can win these next 3 games, then we will all forget and forgive losing on my birthday. But the offense is going to have to show up in order for that to happen. Thank you all for being here with us on this special Tuesday morning episode. We appreciate your patience with us not going live last night. Thank you for being an everydayer. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. And obviously you can make that easy on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. You can also check out Locked On MLB Game Night. It's a brand new show on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel, wherever you get podcasts, local experts for every team covering every game, every day. Get the insights you need from the Locked On Podcast Network. Also, go beyond the podcast, become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSince91. I'm on Twitter at SnyDog, and both of our DMs are open there. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK-5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.